grammar homework that is due on Tuesday, September 25th. In order to do that, make sure you have your handout and also grammar trouble spots. So the 3 steps we're going to take is first, we're going to look at the topic and look it up in the index. So if you read these sentences, you read the topic, you're not sure how to fix it, the best way to figure out is to look in the index, which is in the back of the book. So index, and look up the topic. So you can see they have the topics all in alphabetical order. So sure enough, fragments is going to be on page 19 to 20 and also on page 23. So we'll turn to fragments. You can see that on page 19 it has the topic of fragments, and it describes that a fragment is not a complete grammatical sentence, it is an error. So here you can see on page 19 to 20 we have a bunch of rules, and we also have some exercises that follow. And let's just take a quick preview of page 23. This is a summary of all of the rules from the chapter. So it includes run-on sentences, comma splices, and sentence fragments. So you can see it gives you an example of a problem within sentence fragments in the first column. The second column, it gives you an example of a problem. So that's going to be similar to the sentences we're looking at today. We're going to be looking at problem sentences that have errors in them. And what we're going to be doing is making solutions. So in the second column, we have these examples of problems, and then in the third column we have the examples of solutions. If you want to take a moment and look at the relationship between the two sentences, you can do that. Otherwise, I'm going to be moving on to the rules on page 19 and going over how to correct sentences. So I'm going to look at rule number 1, which says every complete sentence needs a subject in each independent and dependent clause. So we're going to need a subject, and then also I am going to check the third rule, which says a clause needs a complete verb with any and all necessary auxiliaries, which you can see trouble spot 5 for more information about that. A sentence written without a complete verb in a clause is a fragment. So we're using the information for these 2 sentences to help us with the first fragment sentence. So let's take a moment and look at that sentence. The first sentence for fragment is going to be, in the article, My Struggles with Anti-Intellectualism, 2012, an American cultural anthropologist, Paul Stoller, claims the importance of moving away from anti-intellectual society and helping students learn how to think, a skill that prepares them for a productive life in the world. So let's look at the first part of the sentence, the first clause. It says, in the article, My Struggles with Anti-Intellectualism, an American cultural anthropologist, Paul Stoller, claims. So here we have a subject, Paul Stoller, and we also have a verb, claims. One thing we need to know about claims is that after it you need to have a complete sentence. That means you need to have a subject or a verb. Otherwise, what you have is a fragment. So let's look at the following clause or the following phrase and see if we have both a subject and a verb. All right, the importance of moving away from anti-intellectual society and helping students learn how to think, a skill that prepares them for a productive life in the world. All right, so we have this noun, the importance, and then the following words are all giving more information about the noun. So we have this long prepositional phrase that gives us more information about what importance. But we don't have a verb. Therefore, we have a few different ways that we can think about how to fix this sentence. One of the ways is we can add a verb. So we can use the importance of moving away from anti-intellectual society and helping students learn how to think, a skill that prepares them for a productive life in the world. That's a pretty long subject, but if you wanted to use it, you could use that and add a verb after the sentence. And then The other suggestion is that you could have this be the object of a sentence, so that you insert a verb or a subject and a verb and have this be the object. That's another way you could fix this sentence. Another way you could fix the sentence is you could change the verb claims into a verb that does not take a sentence, a full clause afterwards. So, but what we're going to do here, my suggestion here, the way that I'm going to fix this sentence is that I'm going to kind of go with my second suggestion. I am going to add a subject and a verb to this sentence, and we'll have to do some subsequent changes after that. So what I'm going to do is, after the verb claims, I'm going to insert, let's see, let me grab a different pen. It is. So it is, and then instead of importance, where we have this noun, I'm going to change it into an adjective. So it is important. All right, so let's see what we have so far. In the article, My Struggles with Anti-Intellectualism 2012, an American cultural anthropologist, Paul Stoller, claims it is important of moving away from anti-intellectual society and helping students learn how to think, a skill that prepares them for a productive life in the world. All right, so with important, the verb, the conjugation that you need to have with important is going to be a to verb. Here, or the infinitive verb form. Here we have the of and gerund. So with the noun form importance, that's correct. But with the adjectival form important, we need to make that change. So I am going to change this verb, change these words. It is important to move away from anti-intellectual society, and you can say to, you don't have to, and help students learn how to think, a skill that prepares them for a productive life in the world. So let's look at the final sentence. In the article, My Struggles with Anti-Intellectualism, 2012, an American cultural anthropologist, Paul Stoller, claims it is important to move away from anti-intellectual society and to help students learn how to think, a skill that prepares them for a productive life in the world. Here we have a grammatical sentence. As I explained, there are 3 different ways that I suggested you could change this sentence. So this is not the only way to correct this sentence, but that is one way to correct the sentence. So that we have a subject, it, a verb, is, and then the rest of the words are the rest of the sentence. So one thing I want to point out is you have this subject, it. That is connected to the rule number 2 in this chapter, where it says you cannot omit an it subject from a clause. So we could not delete it from that sentence, even though here it really doesn't have any meaning, but it is necessary for the grammar. This is called a pleonastic. If you want to look up more about that, go ahead and do so. So we've changed sentence number 1 into a grammatical sentence using the rules from the chapter so far. Let's look at sentence number 2. In order to stress that anti-intellectualism exists and it consists of consequences, as well as highlighting the benefits of intellectualism, Stoller exhibits a devoted and informative tone for the general public, specifically the readers of the Huffington Post. All right, let's look at the second sentence. Stoller exhibits a devoted and informative tone for the general public, specifically the readers of the Huffington Post. This sentence is mostly okay. One suggestion that's not connected to fragment that I would maybe make is adding a comma between public and specifically. So that the second sentence is, Stoller exhibits a devoted and informative tone for the general public, specifically the readers of the Huffington Post. So, second sentence is okay. How about the first sentence? In order to stress that anti-intellectualism exists and it consists of consequences, as well as highlighting the benefits of intellectualism. All right, let's look at some more rules so that we can see what rules can help us fix this sentence. So we've done rules 1, 2, and 3 on page 19. I'm going to turn the page and look at rules 4 and 5 from page 20. A phrase with no subject or verb can never be written as a complete sentence. That's rule number 4. So in that sentence, let's see, we have both a subject and a verb, so that rule's not really going to help us. Let's look at rule number 5. A dependent clause always needs to appear in a sentence with an independent clause. So let's look at some more information about a dependent clause, because if we look here, it's going to give us some information and say that a subordinating conjunction is always going to be part of a dependent clause. So let's go back and look and remember that we have subordinating conjunctions like because, if, although, or when. We have a subordinating conjunction in the sentence. Let's check. In order to, that's a subordinating conjunction. In order to stress that anti-intellectualism exists and it consists of consequences as well as highlighting the benefits of intellectualism. So we have a subject and a verb, but we start with this subordinating conjunction. So what that means is that we're going to have to combine it with an independent clause. We can fix that just by changing this period into a comma. So it's possible this was a typo and the writer meant to add the comma originally, but it's important to get that punctuation correct because otherwise you're going to be having a fragment for a sentence. So let's look at the final resulting sentence. The sentence is, in order to stress that anti-intellectualism exists and it consists of consequences, as well as highlighting the benefits of intellectualism, Stoller exhibits a devoted and informative tone for the general public, specifically the readers of the Huffington Post. So there you have it. That's how to use your grammar book to help you correct these sentences. And this is an example. You can write on the paper and show proofreading marks. You're going to get papers back that look like me, so if you can practice this skill yourself, that'll help you when you yourself have to practice the skill. Thanks so much, and see you on Tuesday.